You didn't
Right.
fight this by like arresting these people.
Right.
Like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah, someone needs to arrest the people that are
Yes.
doing this arresting. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Defeats the Purpose. My name is Khalid,
Yeah, I'm Issam.
and that's July 18th, and we have a great show tonight. We have quite a bit of stuff to talk about. We're going to kick it off with Issam, who's going to share some slides here about upcoming elections.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to know, like, elections are actually ongoing now, right? And there's a bunch of stuff you can vote for. And actually, not a bunch of stuff. It's actually a bunch of people, depending on how much you value life, I guess. So we're going to start out with, you can actually vote for your school board. This is just an example group of people who are on the school board. There's a bunch of different schools, obviously, all throughout the city.
Right,
Hundreds.
So is this for, like, I don't really know a lot about this. So
Oh yeah. No, this
particularly about local government. I'm so bad when it comes to local government.
This is part of the problem, actually, because I'm going to talk about this. This is like a whole nother section. There's a whole ton of people who are representing your interests. And you can vote school board that they represent the school interests. You can vote, I'll get to all that stuff.
Okay.
We start with school stuff. You're going to know the word public in public schools refers to the fact that citizens themselves actually control the public schools. Because the public school, you can actually vote people in who are actually going to run the school.
Right.
So you can actually vote in the school board, and depending on how big the school is, you can have, like, this district is, you can have 5 or 7 people. You can have some number of people representing the board, depending on how big. So the most important thing that some of the most important things is that they actually vote in the staff. And they actually have a bunch of responsibilities, like budget. So they have some sort of budget that's allocated to them, and they get to, pick what they're going to spend it on.
Okay.
A bunch of financial reporting, what's on the school calendar, even. Negotiating contracts with unions.
Like vendors.
So like teacher unions and stuff like that.
Oh, wow, okay.
And approving curriculum material. And either closing or building new schools. So
fascinating.
I mean, you need to know who these people are. I'm super on top of the school board people.
Okay.
But I actually missed the election for those people, because usually, if I understand, the school kind of board elections are a little bit different from when you go and vote for, like, say, for Congress or Senate or President.
Okay.
Or whatever. So they're like, it's kind of like a different timing. A lot of these things are different timing. One thing that we have in New York, I don't know, it's actually more recent. It started in 1993. Is the public advocate position. So this is like a huge thing. I guess it was 2 years ago, or last year, 2 years ago.
Okay.
Where there's all these people. There are a lot of people. They're trying to get to public advocate.
What exactly is a public advocate?
Yeah, it's an interesting position. It was renamed, actually, the public advocate a while back. And what it is a bunch of different small things. So basically, they act as like a watchdog for whoever the administration is running.
For what? I'm sorry?
A watchdog. They like
for what?
For the city.
Oh, okay.
The city of New York. They oversee all the agencies that are happening in the city, and then, like, for example, the mayor, what he's up to, and then whether the Department of Education's up to most. And they
sounds so funny.
And they're like the whistleblower, basically.
Okay, I mean, right. Okay.
The funny thing in this position is that if something happens to the mayor, he resigns or he drops out or he dies or something, this guy succeeds the mayor.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. So if de Blasio resigns, or whatever happens to De Blasio, he decides not to be or he's no longer the mayor, rather, and it's still his term, this guy would jump in as interim mayor until the next election, I imagine.
Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
That's what I understand. And they can also introduce and co-sponsor legislation.
Okay.
So they don't have too much kind of power, from what I understand. But Juman's kind of been, when it comes to New York City, Juman's kind of been in the headlines because he's been actually going to rallies. He's been going to Black Lives Matter protests, and
Very cool.
And he said something recently, which was in a bunch of news. So the New York City, they were supposed to cut the budget by $1 billion, or the police department's $6 billion budget. They were going to cut it by $1 billion. And then I was actually watching this live when the council members of the city, which is a whole other thing, voted them in. So they voted for if they should keep this budget. The basically what happened was the mayor, De Blasio, and a bunch of the chair and his administration, they got together and they allocated the budget. And they said, "Oh yeah, we cut it $1 billion," but they did some things. They called it like fuzzy math in the news.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do. It's like a shell. They called it a shell game, from what I understand. Is that they just? Sorry, continue.
Yeah, they moved, like, for one of the examples is that they moved the funds from the police department to schools. So they're like, and what that means is instead of funding under the police department, funding the police that are going to the schools, you just give the Department of Education the money,
right?
And it's going to fund the police.
They fund, right,
and
then they fund the police department, right? Yeah. So that's actually the example that I heard about too, and I was like, well, then what the? You're not really doing any. I mean, the one thing that De Blasio, when he was pressed about the issue, he talked about how there aren't going to be any. How did he frame it? It was the way he framed it that drove me crazy. It's like he said that they're canceling a new recruit class in August or something like that, or later on this year, and that it was going to reduce the number of cops. I was like, no, you can't reduce what you don't have. You can only reduce what you have. So it doesn't make any, what he was saying didn't make any sense to me. And I was just like, and he was doing live on TV. He was getting pressed by a reporter about this, but I don't know.
They, from what I understand, also they didn't cut, like Juman was actually mad about them not cutting police officers, so they can still They have $36,000. 36,000 people.
Right. So it's still the same amount of police. They're just canceled the recruitment. They canceled a new class.
Yeah.
But you can't classify that as a reduction. And to your point, it's still the same amount of police officers.
But even, from what I understand, I think they can still hire more police officers. I don't think they cap them. Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that, but
that's what I understand. I think he was particularly not about that.
He just needed a large enough sounding number. They probably told him, $1 billion. We'll still have the same number of police. And we're not going to like get rid of whatever. Like they banned chokeholds. Okay, great. What about tear gas and fucking what's it called? Munitions that like create skull fractures and things like that. They may not be lethal, but they still harm people pretty effectively. Sorry,
yeah, it's just like this beyond. I mean, that's a whole huge issue. Juman specifically has been in the news right after this passed because that budget did pass. He said there's something in the charter that requires him to sign it, and this has never happened before. But he said he's not going to sign it. So so we'll see. Maybe he's probably going to get sued or something. But he has the power not to sign it. So it's interesting. He said he's not going to do it. So I'm very curious what's the next step here.
Is he going to get sued in the same way the governor of Georgia sued what was it, the city of Atlanta or something like that, for forcing people to wear masks.
This is like, I mean, you can sue anybody here, but it's just like
I know.
phenomenal. I wish they had a stupidity limit. The next thing,
Yeah.
this is specific New York City, so I thought I'd mention it.
Okay.
Next thing is state assembly. I actually was not sure what a state assembly is, because there's a bunch of people who are running for state assembly now.
Okay. Man, I'm learning so much today. Seriously, I didn't know any of this stuff. I really didn't. Like, I just been cruising along here in New York. Well, you know what? There's a reason why I feel like you want to know these things.
I mean, because each of these people are supposed to represent us, and like,
No, I know.
These are the people you call when you're like pissed off.
Okay.
Like, who are you supposed to talk to? Who's running these things? We're raging against the system, but we don't know how the system works. So it's just like,
right.
And it's, I feel it's like I feel part of the duty of these people is to make it easier for people to understand, and maybe even change it to make it easier to participate or change your community for the better. And
why do you think that is? Why do you think we don't know about these people? Like, take me for example. You say what you want about me, but I feel like I try to do my due diligence. But you look at anyone's pages on Twitter, Facebook, anything. No one's talking about these people. And it's or at least it's very hard, particularly for me, to find. And it's not like I'm not trying. I mean, I spent all day today putting together a presentation for this, and I spent a lot of time putting together presentations for our podcast. And it's just it's weird to me that I don't come across this more often.
I think it's just when you really look, you can find these people.
Agreed.
And they only really, I mean, if it comes down to a big decision, you'll definitely hear these names come up. I have a council member in New York. I voted for him, actually, Brad Landner.
Yeah.
He's been in the news twice now with the vote. So he voted to not pass the budget. And he also was sleeping outside of Jeff Bezos' house recently to protest.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, and I mean, so I kind of like, he's representing my interests, but like, at the same time, like, yeah, you don't really hear about these people because you don't see how it affects you, I think. And it's like, where do you go to see, like, how does it affect you? It's like, a lot of these people are running through like city legislation and bills and stuff. And the fact that you don't necessarily look for names when you look at like when the roads are like being paved or stuff. It's hard to say. I mean, New York City should definitely be in the light for this, unless it's like some like scandal, like, oh, this person said like the N-word, and then suddenly we know all of them. It's just like, that's a big difference from like how classrooms only get like, what, I don't know, some $38 a year, like $30 a month even for like cleaning supplies for a classroom. It's just so silly. Like, who made that decision? Who's not funding that? Like,
probably some neoliberal, neoconservative.
But we gotta find them.
I know. So I appreciate what you're saying. Well, here's the thing: is like people like Betsy DeVos gets all the attention, but her reach is only so far, right? Like, at a certain point, there have to be people making decisions further down the line. Now, she can architect some of those decisions, and it can have sort of an effect on the rest of the country. But to your point, you're absolutely right. We need to find the people here that are making our lives more difficult, particularly for our children. Because, and I saw a tweet today that was like, the children of this country, they're becoming the future of the country, and they're not being given enough support to become that future effectively. And I personally, so I lean in on the side of that's by design. They don't want kids to have the support that they need. But who are those people? Like, are these those people, right? Are these the people that you're talking about, or is it people like at the federal level, like Betsy DeVos, who's is she also? I mean, I know she's part of the problem. I 100%, I 100% think that woman came from hell specifically to work in the Trump administration. I really do. I really do. She's like, not only did she come from hell, she looks like she's a puppet half the time. Like the way she smiles and the way that she responds to questions, it doesn't look normal, man. People don't talk like that. Normal people don't talk like that. Anyway, I'm getting on a weird tangent here.
Yeah, I mean, you did bring up a good point. Who are these people making these decisions? I think let's they're going to table that and bring some bring some decisions that were made by certain people.
Yeah, it's not like the information isn't there, right? I'm so ignorant on this type of stuff that it's
true. It's like in the mire.
Right.
And it shouldn't be, actually. It's not like you're ignorant about it. I think people should know it. Like, you should know, like, what's going on. And like, if you live in Harlem, or if you live in, like, Queens, you should know, like, hey, what's the effect of the community? Like, how much are we, like, popping up local businesses?
Right.
Like, how much are we, like, spending on our schools? Like, what are they even learning? Like,
I mean, I'll tell you how bad it is for me. I've seen a lot of these campaign brochures, I guess, like promoting some of these people, and I look at them and I'm like, great, and then I forget that person immediately, and I'm like, okay, poof. I see their name, and then I want to vote for them down the party line because I'm so focused on the representatives, I'm so focused on the Senate and of course the presidency that I don't think about these local issues that are very important to my life as well. And so I definitely need to get better at that.
But like, these people talk to those people, the higher up. Like, you're going to get this group and they're going to talk to the person who's higher up, and you get this group and you talk to the person who's higher up. Obviously you need somebody who's at the top, who's like doing this stuff. But like, for example, the state assembly people, it's all the people. I'm giving an example for New York, for example. Here's some people in New York. There's a lot of districts in New York State.
Right.
I think there's, I'm just going to grab the number really quick. I think there is.
It's like over 50, right? It's like
no,
57.
In New York, it's like easily over 100, 140 at least.
Or maybe I'm thinking of counties.
I think you're thinking of counties.
Yeah.
The drawing of districts is insane, by the way.
Okay, got it.
Oh, that's so a mess. It's just a disaster. It's just, you're seeing some of these people, like for example, I think her name was Lindsay Boylan, was running against what's his name, Nadler, and her district is like part of like Bay Ridge and Lower Manhattan. It's like, what are we talking about? Who drew that? Yeah.
That's
and like,
so bizarre.
You can see like way more people voted for Nadler in Manhattan, and she did way better in near Bay Ridge and like Lower Brooklyn. It's just
interesting.
Like, yeah,
and
that's
so
how it kind of balances, you know.
Dude, the districting in this country is so beyond fucked up. The gerrymandering of our country, of this country, is a disaster. It's bananas. It's one of the worst things. Sorry.
Just to get, let's just
keep
run through this. So the New York State Assembly is it's a lower chamber of the New York State legislature, which is a whole other topic, alongside the New York State Senate. So it's the lower part. So it forms kind of the legislative branch of the New York government, and works alongside the governor of New York, so Cuomo, to create laws and establish a state budget.
Oh, wow. Okay. So these people are integral to having the state laws and the state budget.
Yes. Yeah. Passing bills and public policy.
So crazy.
Lowering taxes. Tons of stuff.
Okay. So these people are basically the ones relaying information to Cuomo, right?
Yeah. They can.
I mean,
They
if you
also
think
have
about it.
votes to. Como. Yeah. If I think about it, go ahead.
Okay.
I haven't been really thinking about it. I've just been like
Well,
looking at
neither have I
lists.
until tonight. So this is good for me to know.
Um, this is a lot of these people.
Okay.
So then obviously this is this is obviously Congress. So you hear a lot about Congress and Senate.
Right. Right. So
Because you have the big representatives of Congress. One of the bigger representatives is Congress, and they
right.
have a bunch of things on. One of the more recent people in the news are these four people, because they're more progressive. I always wonder. I was just like, there's these four people here. There's so many Congress members. There's like what?
I know. There's
500?
430,
Yeah.
438. Yeah.
Well, it's just like really something like I really want kind of what I imagine in my head is somebody brings up, oh, there's a bill for like, let's cut the Endangered Species Act or whatever. There's a bill for like gentrification everywhere or whatever. And I want to
Mm,
see, and obviously those aren't real bills, well, some of them to an extent, like, so I want to see like a sea of people like yelling like in the British. You ever see those British houses where like all the lawmakers are just yelling, like banging their hands and stuff, and like be outraged by that kind of stuff.
right.
I want to see those speeches. I want to see, but I don't see that. Um, like I
Oh,
don't
it's
know. It's
by the
probably
way,
just
it's
my
sorry.
C-SPAN, my C-SPAN attention span is probably not as good. Go ahead.
It's hard. It's just tough, man. I mean, like that. I think that's why people, and I think I mentioned this before about you have to fight local, think global, but
No.
the whole point being there's just too much to. There's not enough time. There's just not enough time. I'll give you an example that's not related to politics at all, right?
Sure.
So in Major League Baseball, there's 162 games, right, per team, and then each team has to play. There's 30 teams, and then each game is 3 hours, right? So
Mm.
in one season, if you go by those numbers, in one season, you're talking about 300 total days in 24-hour days worth of coverage of footage of baseball games. So
Mm.
it's impossible to even watch an entire season of every single baseball team play baseball. You would only have 65 days left over total, including all of the hours of those 300 days. You would only have 65 remaining days. Anyway, luckily we have a leap year this year, so it
Okay,
should make it
another
a little
day. Yeah.
should make it a little more manageable. But it's just impossible to take in all this content. I mean, it's particularly if you work a 40-hour job or if you work 3 jobs, like how are you ever going to have the time to focus on anything except what's going on at the federal level? So that part makes a lot of sense to me. Like people, they just want things to work, man. People just want things to work. Like people don't want to have to worry about voting per se, but they are also very eager to vote. And so I find it very interesting that they'll find a party line that they agree with, and then that will dictate the rest of their voting measures. But then they don't really look into the people that they're actually voting for. And in a manner of speaking, and I don't want to create a monolith out of people in this country, but there's so many people. It's so much footage of people who just simply don't give a shit about what's going on in this country. Even right now, they don't care. They just don't care about what's going on in this country.
The whole I just gonna grill. I just want to grill.
Yeah, I just want to grill, right? Like, what does that even fucking mean? Do you understand why you're allowed to grill?
Or like what you're grilling, like
Right.
meat prices have gone up, or what you're even eating, or like
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into grilling.
Dude, there's
Like a
millions of
packaging.
yeah, exactly. There's and all those people have jobs, and all those people have to they have to put the meat together so that you can get it, right?
And those
So
people have COVID.
yes.
Just like
Oh my god. Well, that's the thing. It's what was I gonna say? This is like meat to me, by the way. Congress, like this is meat to me because I think they're like closer to the root of the problem in this country, right?
Yeah. I
And so
agree.
I am more favorable to studying them and understanding what they're doing because they set guidelines for our military and they set guidelines for passing things like Medicare for all, for example, or raising the minimum wage. And while it's also important at the local level to think about those things, because obviously states can go ahead and pass a higher minimum wage at that level, it's, I don't know. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be really quick. I just want to touch on these people because I know we got a lot to go through. So yeah, as you said, the main function of these people are to make laws. The law, you have a law, a bill that's passed here, then it goes to the Senate, then it goes to the president to sign.
Right.
And then there's a bunch of, if the bill doesn't pass, then it has to go back, and people are going to talk about it again. Everybody's seen Schoolhouse Rock, you know how this works. And just some interesting tip. To become a congressman or a congresswoman, you had to be at least 25. And you had to be a U.S. citizen for 7 years and a resident of your state, of course. And then you had to be elected to office. And then one of the differences between Congress and the Senate is that Congress is every 2 years. And so they get to stay for 2 years. And Senate is every 6 years. So yeah, so you have to run for re-election every even year. You have to run for re-election. Sounds like a pain.
Oh my God. Every 2 years?
Yeah.
You know, that's not tenable. That is untenable to have to force people to run every 2 years because then they're focused on fundraising for such a large portion of the time that they're actually in office. And that's no way to run a country, man. Like they should be given 4-year periods where they get to be representing places so that they can be more focused on. Sorry, what are you going to say?
I was just going to go. I mean, I don't know if I agree with that.
Why?
Why? Because I guess I'm reluctant to say I don't know if I don't agree with that because I don't know how you get rid of these people if they're bad. Like you can impeach a president, but I don't know how you impeach a senator. How you impeach? Like they're just stuck in the house.
Well,
people just commit crimes, just like hanging out.
Yeah, but
be a mob boss, you know.
Yeah, but 2 years is too short, man. Like if we're still, so let me put it to you. You make a good point. So I will give you that. I guess what I'm trying to say is if they didn't have to raise money, fine.
Fine. This is a totally different story. It's
a little bit different
and all that stuff.
Right. But you're right. It's a different point that I'm trying to make than what you're saying. So yes, in theory, 2 years is it's a long period of time, right? But still, and how long is it for the Senate? They get 6 years, right? So then,
which is insane. That's way too long.
Yeah, 6 years for 100 people and 2 years for. It almost feels backwards in some ways, and in other ways, it kind of makes sense. Like the senator should only be allowed to serve for 2 years. Like I think they should constantly have to be on the run to get one of those 100 Senate seats back. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Number of years. I wonder. I think it's less about the number of years and how much they actually get done. As in, what I mean is, I don't know, quality versus quantity, I guess. Like you can be 6 years and do nothing.
Yeah, and you can be there for 2 years and do a lot. Like I'm not saying that's not the case.
But I get what you mean. Like you're focusing on your re-election. Who are you going to pander to if the system is corrupt and you know. What if you were a congress instead of a Congress? What do you do? You know.
Are these the dad jokes you learn when you have a kid?
You just have a kid. The kid comes out and then bing.
It's just dad
Like,
joke central,
whoa.
right? Like all over the place.
Yeah. And,
No, I love it, man. I do. I
um,
really love it. I'm like, I have so many dad jokes that I just don't bring on the show. I probably should. Just to lighten
dude,
up a little bit.
yeah, we need to you know, it's quality versus quantity. You can bring them a ton that are really bad, I guess, and that that might be
Right.
good.
Right. Oh man.
Um,
Well, I'll next time I'll come prepared with a bag full of cringeworthy puns that'll make both of us probably want to go cut this podcast short.
Yeah, we might want to. Yeah, we might want to do heavy editing.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, or maybe add some bleeps.
It's just bleep out the whole.
And
It's not. Just be like, oh, was it a curse word that we bleeped out? It's just a horrible joke.
yeah, I'm wondering when we can do that. Actually, just bleep out stuff.
I don't know.
I got a bunch of words.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's keep going.
let's keep going.
Okay, really. So they're actually, so Congress people, I guess everybody should be limited to like court, Supreme Court decisions, and honestly the Constitution. So if they want to bring back slavery, they obviously can't do that because slavery is abolished, unless you do it kind of through a weird prison system, which is another story.
Yes.
Yeah. So technically, they should have to study each bill that comes on the desk, and they can also make bills, of course. They vote bills based on the merits and all that stuff. So yes, I do want to. I'm just gonna be really light on this. We have to keep going. I do want to ask, who represents you? Do you even know who represents you?
Me?
So yeah, who represents you?
I have no idea.
So what you can do, I'm gonna go to this website. You don't have to. It's by. Can you still see my shared screen?
Yeah, I can see your shared screen.
Okay, so here's a New York City one.
No, it's not secure.
It's not secure. I wouldn't usually do this, but I think we're in dire. We really need to know who represents the Academy, Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in. I guess you could say Fort Greene. So you have your city council member, Combo. She's on the city council.
Very cool. Very cool.
She voted for the budget. Just so you know, your chairperson, your borough representative. This person represents Brooklyn, of course. These two people. There's the president, and then the district attorney is very important.
I know. I'll
get to district attorney later, and then you have, of course, the mayor.
Of course,
and
mayor.
Then,
yeah.
The comptroller. Maybe I'll do something on him later, and of course, Juman.
Dude, it's so crazy to me that Mayor de Blasio is the mayor of the entire New York City area. It's like it's too many people for one person. But I almost feel like there should be more mayors. Maybe that would be too crazy for New York City.
If you want to get down to it, there's like different. I mean, you're supposed to. That's where the district representatives come in, and actually, when it goes down to party, at least the Democratic Party, there's actually like kind of block kind of representatives. I have a friend who's like a block representative.
Okay.
And that's a whole other story. But yeah, for one mayor to like make a budget and control it, so
it's a lot.
We gotta, yeah, it is a lot, but I think we gotta learn more about how the system works to know where to change that. Anyway, yeah, that's just New York City. Who knows per state? Some states have completely different rules.
Yeah, no, I got you.
So, okay. So I'm going to switch it back to you here.
Okay. I'm just going to make a couple of last minute changes.
Yeah, touch-ups. Put some sparkling in somebody's teeth.
Right. Let's see. You know what, we'll just roll with it. That's fine. If I need to change anything on the fly, it's fine. We'll just roll with it.
Yeah, we got to roll, man.
All right. Well, here we go, man. So get back into the stories of the day, I guess. And
Yeah,
so
oh, man.
Issam, you shared
Start
this.
crying.
Yeah, I know. Issam, you shared this story, which
This is huge news. This is ridiculous.
this is the. Oh, you're seeing my screen right now? Okay.
I can totally see it.
All right, perfect. So there we go. So this is pretty crazy. I like when I first saw this, I was totally blown away. I believe you actually sent me a tweet that Robert Reich posted, and then of someone. So he retweeted this, and it was someone else posting the article, and he was like, "If this is true, blah, blah." Well, it turns out it is true. So federal law enforcement used unmarked vehicles to grab protesters off Portland streets. And this is just one of the craziest things that I've seen, because it the first thing you think about, like, what is the first thing you think about when you see this? I'll just ask you.
What's the opposite of utopia?
Dystopia. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. Trump's America.
This is definitely yeah, you put that in there.
Right. I mean, well, whatever you want. I mean, whatever you want to call it. This has been coming for a long time. Like I think the neoliberal path in this country, setting this country up for like getting rid of the manufacturing sector, gutting the manufacturing sector, getting rid of unions, exporting jobs. You talk about the inability to raise the minimum wage for whatever reason, the stagnation of wages in the country overall over the last 20 years. I mean, real median income hasn't gone up over the last 20 to 30 years now. And then you talk about how every single presidency has been in on it. They haven't pushed for any economic policies to help the working class. So just to set this whole thing up as to why we're here at this point, where we now have secret police on the streets patrolling and literally picking up protesters off the street who haven't done anything. Protesters who haven't done anything wrong. They're now, I'll start reading here. So in the early hours of July 15th, after a night spent protesting at the Multnomah County Justice Center and Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse, Mark Pettibone and his friend Connor O'Shea decided to head home. It had been a calm night compared to most protesting downtown. By 2 a.m., law enforcement hadn't used any tear gas, and with only a few exceptions, both the Portland Police Bureau and federal law enforcement and officers had stayed out of sight. A block west of Chapman Square, Pettibone and O'Shea bumped into a group of people who warned them that people in camouflage were driving around the area in unmarked minivans, grabbing people off the street. So that was terrifying to hear, Pettibone said. Yeah, no shit. It's just absolutely bananas for this to start. So O'Shea says, I see guys in camo, 4 or 5 of them pop out, open the door, and it was just like, oh shit, I don't know who you are or what you want with us. Federal law enforcement officers have been using unmarked vehicles to drive around downtown Portland and detain protesters since at least July 14th. Personal accounts and multiple videos posted online show the officers driving up to people, detaining individuals with no explanation of why they are being arrested, and driving off. And let's see. This is the next paragraph is actually very interesting. I only highlighted one word in that paragraph because I find that to be such a fascinating use of language. The tactic appears to be another escalation of federal force deployed on Portland city streets, as federal officials and President Donald Trump have said they plan to, quote, quell nightly protests outside the federal courthouse.
I don't think Trump said the word quell.
Yeah, probably not, right?
I doubt that.
Oh my God. Well, he has a vocabulary of about 12 words. So you're probably right on that front. And Multnomah County Justice Center that have lasted for more than 6 weeks. So I highlighted that word because quell is very soft language. It is not the language you would want to use to describe a police state, which is what this is. It's a police state. And so I really don't know. I mean, it's just depressing to hear about it, because the first thing that comes to mind is this is probably a type of trial run.
Yeah.
And also it serves as a warning to the rest of the country that if you continue to protest, we're going to show up in your neighborhood too, and we're going to do this to you. And it's not like they really need the help. The police don't really, they already have all of the weapons, and they already have the right wing on their side. So it's not like they really need more reinforcements.
This is a developing story. Do you hear who they think it is now? Because these people are unmarked and stuff, and unmarked vans, and they don't got any ID or anything. You hear who it is?
No, I don't know.
I read that it was Border Patrol.
Really?
Yeah.
Not ICE.
I don't think it's ICE. No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So Border Patrol went up to Portland, or they came down from, or they, I guess where they were. Are you talking about Border Patrol?
It depends on which. I think it's equidistant. I'm just kidding. I don't know. But that's what I just read. That was because it's under federal jurisdiction, and that's what I read. That it was Border Patrol. I think it's still developing. I'm not going to say 100%.
Jesus. Well, I guess we'll have to find out, right? If you say who you think it is, you'll get called a conspiracy theorist, and then even if you're right, they'll, you never get an apology for it anyway. So, federal officers have charged at least 13 people with crimes related to the protests so far, while others have been arrested and released, including Pettibone. So here's the interesting thing, right? They charge people with crimes, okay? Now, let's say those crimes are legitimate. Let's say they actually charge legitimate people with crimes. It lends the police officers credibility, or it lends the people credibility that are committing or basically driving around in secret, so that they can go and terrorize peaceful protesters. And that's exactly what it seems like what's happening here. And, I'm making an assumption there, but I feel pretty comfortable with that assumption, because that seems to be the way things go. You need to lend yourself credibility before you go and do horrible things. So
yeah, no, that's right. I'm very surprised any of this is even remotely. I mean, nobody's sued them yet, but this is obviously is not legal.
It's not.
You can't just kidnap people.
Well, it's interesting that even though
skull fracture them,
even though it's illegal, it's still there. Like, what is the recourse here? Like, I mean, you want to believe that we have a system that has people that will come out to protect these protesters in a time like this, whatever that agency may be. But when the systems start to break down, who is going to be there for these people?
Technically, it should be the state, I guess, because these federal people are coming to the state. Technically, I'm saying technically because obviously they haven't done shit.
Right. So,
but I forget his name off the top of my head. I believe the congressman for
Portland?
for Oregon.
Okay.
Told Donald Trump not to do this anymore. To get them out.
I think I actually have it in the next slide. Let me just finish up here. They also left one demonstrator hospitalized with skull fractures after shooting him in the face with so-called, quote, less lethal munitions July 11th. Officers from the U.S. Marshals Special Operations Group and Customs and Border Protection's BORTAC, another thing that I just haven't heard about, right? So this is, to your point, that's have been sent to Portland to protect federal property during the recent protests against racism and police brutality. But interviews conducted by OPB shows officers are also detaining people on Portland streets who aren't near federal property, nor is it clear that all of the people being arrested have engaged in criminal activity. Demonstrators like O'Shea and Pettibone said they think they were targeted by federal officers for simply wearing black clothing in the area of the demonstration. Feds are driving around, grabbing people off the streets, O'Shea said on the video. I didn't do anything effing wrong. I'm recording this. I had to let somebody know that this is what happens. And Pettibone did not escape the federal officers, and this is where things get really kind of crazy is because, well, when they get picked up, what happens, right? So he says, I'm basically tossed into the van, Pettibone said, and I had my beanie pulled over my face so I couldn't see, and they held my hands over my head. So this is just some, like, I don't want to qualify this as like Gestapo tactics.
This is mob. This is like not even mob.
This is a mob.
This is really weird. Like,
I don't even want to. Yeah, this is well, we're getting to a place in society where we were already, I think, in a fascist place in society. I think like we had ascended there over many years, and then we elected a fascist leader on top of all of that. And now we're seeing the results of what a fascist leader can do for a society like ours. And what's crazy is there are so many people who don't think he's fascist. They think the other side is fascist. They think the other side is bad. I saw a tweet today saying that Antifa are the real fascists. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? These people, I just
anti-fascists.
Yeah, they're called anti-fascists, and they're like, okay, yeah, wink, wink, yeah, right. It's like if I started the not KKK and people were like, you're part of the KKK. I'm like,
these things become ridiculous and hypocritical very fast when you have like, say you have somebody like Trump, or say you have somebody like Republicans, where they pass all these crazy bills,
right?
And then like, but you said this, and then like, but your person did this, and like, but you said this, but your person did this, and like our person.
It's a deflection. It's just constant. It's constant deflection.
But this is like, I don't really. It's hard to say who our person is anymore, because there isn't really a person who's actually representing our interests, because nobody's actually. Like, you can't, I don't know, you don't just fight this with being like, can you please get out of our city? You can fight this by like arresting these people.
Right.
Like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah, someone needs to arrest the people that are doing this arresting. Like, why isn't anyone? It's weird, and it makes you wonder. Like, are these people just pontificating, or are they what's the word? Are they just saying these things so that it seems like they want them to get out, but wink, wink, keep doing what you're doing? Because then why aren't they using people at the state level to stop this? So it doesn't make any sense to me.
It's true. I mean, the opposite of action is inaction. So it's not talking. It's not ripping up some papers, or I don't know, doing a dance, or
yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know either. So he says, I am basically tossed into the van. I read that part. And then he says, blinded. So it goes on. Blinded by his hat in an unmarked minivan full of armed people dressed in camouflage and body armor who hadn't identified themselves, Pettibone said he was driven around downtown before being unloaded inside a building. He wouldn't learn until after his release that he had been inside the federal courthouse. So who's at the federal courthouse? Are they just cool with whoever they just bring in? They're just like, oh, I guess the guys are just bringing more people in here. No one says anything there, right? Or who knows if anyone's even there? Like, I don't even know, because I'm not there, and I don't know what it looks like inside there, who's on duty. This is why I need to pay attention to local politics. I
mean, I don't know if you want to pay attention to Portland's politics. Well, we are technically.
I'm being facetious, but you're absolutely right. And then it was basically a process of facing many walls and corners as they patted me down and took my picture and rummaged through my belongings, Pettibone said. One of them said, he's talking about the officers, this is a whole lot of nothing. Yeah, no shit. Because you picked up a random person off the street and you kidnapped them. Let's just like break this down a little bit, right? They kidnapped a human being for no reason. And then they brought them to a place, which is a federal courthouse. Why does that even matter? And then they made them face walls for a while. So they psychologically tortured this guy. And then they interrogated his personal property, his private belongings, with zero due process. They didn't even read this guy. There's no mention of this guy even being read his Miranda rights. So he's not actually.
No, I think he is. But this isn't even a real arrest. Like, there's no.
He was read as Miranda rights.
Yeah, I think. Oh, maybe it's not this guy. Maybe I read another guy.
Okay.
Basically, they took him and they read Miranda rights to him, and they said they also told him they put him in a cell. Actually, they read his Miranda rights, and then they said you can you
have the right
waive
to
your
attorney.
rights.
Oh.
Yeah, you can waive these rights. Yeah, you have right to attorney, all that stuff. You can waive these rights and then answer some questions for us. And he said, no, I want a lawyer.
Which is the smart thing to do.
Yeah. And then after 90 minutes, they released him. It was like, what's going on?
I'm gonna look directly. I need to look directly into the camera when I say this. To anyone watching this podcast, if you are ever arrested and they come to you with some kind of offer and you don't feel like you've done anything wrong, the first thing you say is, I need a lawyer. Okay? You just you put that, you make sure those are the first things you say out loud in that situation.
I mean, cops hate lawyers, I guess.
I don't know if they. Well, I don't know if that's the case, but it seems like that's the most effective way to at least postpone some sort of imminent, because they want immediate information out of this guy. They need they need information.
You need to make it awkward really quick,
right? So first thing you say is, I need a lawyer. Well, then they're we can't do anything now. They're just trying to intimidate the guy. That's it.
Like,
so in this type of situation, I would say just like freaking ask for a lawyer. Don't give them information. I mean, do whatever you want. If you like, I don't want to go back on what I'm saying. I don't want to also force people to do something that they're against.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair.
I'll whatever.
What's happening? What is that?
What's next here?
Yeah.
So, and I got this tweet. I think you sent this to me also, and from Jess Dweck, the Dweck. That's a funny name, by the way.
I like her.
And
she's pretty funny. She's got a lot of funny tweets.
Maybe I'll follow her. I'll have our page follow her. I don't know. I think the real threat to free speech is a New York Times columnist quitting her job to start a website for idiots.
We're talking about Barry Weiss, I guess.
Is it Barry Weiss or Barry Weiss? I don't know.
Actually, I don't know. Barry Weiss sounds a little bit more interesting.
Okay.
Sounds like a crooner.
I thought it was Barry Weiss.
Are you confusing Barry Weiss versus Barry White?
Yeah, right. So I'm not even entertaining that. So Barry Weiss, God, I had no idea that she signed the cancel culture letter. By the way,
there's a bunch of people who
there's a lot of people, but I didn't know that she was one of them. And that is just so ironic for someone who is like considered one of the queens of cancel culture to be like, don't cancel me, blah blah blah, cancel culture run amok. You tried to get a Palestinian professor fired from their job because he held a different viewpoint than you, and then you also called them anti-Semitic for no reason, completely baseless.
I mean, obviously that's part of the rebuttal to the cancel culture letter in Harvard News.
Right.
Is that like these people are hypocrites?
A lot of those people are hypocrites, which I totally agree with. So it just muddies the water, unfortunately, because like there are times where I'm like, I didn't have a good, I think, opinion on this before because it was like brand new to me.
It's fine
in particular, but like now I get it. There are times where people are fucking schmucks and they should be canceled, and that should happen through a freaking angry mob sometimes because whatever they say is not acceptable to society. And if a corporation or whatever owner of that person at their job decides to cancel them, then or fire them or whatever it may be, then so be it. I'm totally on board with it. But there are also times where I feel like you need to leave those people alone. I can't think of a good example right now, but it really just comes up to numbers. Like if you have enough people that are against something, then they become the voice, and that's it. So I don't know.
I don't know if I agree. I think it merits some that. Yeah, I don't know if I agree that you could have a mob, like an online mob, go after them. But like when it comes to, yeah, I
Well, what
it
part
has to
don't
be at the
you,
top.
just to be clear, what part do you not disagree with? Or excuse me, what part do you disagree with?
I mean, I guess I have to see the examples, but I just like anybody can. I mean, that's the problem. Isn't I don't think the problem is them saying stuff or believing those things.
Right.
I mean, the problem is more like how much damage are they doing? I think like how much damage, how much.
But that's the
Um,
thing, is that it's up to people to decide that, right? It's not up to me to decide it personally. You know, I can have whatever opinion, but if I share the same belief as enough people that something is detrimental to culture, then
so
I have two ways of going about it, right? One, I can petition whoever the employer of that person is to stop them in their tracks, or I can just be really loud and angry about it, and then enough people will join me so that I can get enough people to turn away from that particular person for whatever it is they're doing, right?
well,
Um,
so let me give you an example. So for example, one guy, he posted this thing on Facebook where, and this is like anecdotal story, obviously. He posted this thing on Facebook where it was an old picture of white children or
okay,
white, and they were picking cotton. And he said these are not the only like white children were who were too, and they were picking cotton. That was like kind of the meme. And a ton of people got mad at him, being like, "Why are you equating these white children who are poor to people who are literally enslaved?"
right,
Yeah, and he went out and he had to submit like this huge apology and stuff.
okay.
Um, does that person deserve to lose their job? Does that person, I mean, as opposed to an apology, like, can we talk to this person?
Well,
Like,
here's the thing, man. We live in a
like,
capitalistic society. If people catch wind of that person's employer, then that person's employer is going to look bad as well, right?
I mean,
So you have to be
because
careful about that kind of thing in this society. And I'm not saying that he should or shouldn't be fired. I'm saying that that employer has every right to fire them over something like that.
if I have a view that's counter to um, what people think, what a majority of people think, say
Yes.
on Twitter, then then I deserve to be fired from my job.
That's different than what I'm saying. Well,
Okay.
if you present a cogent argument, for example, if you present a cogent argument about RussiaGate being what's the word, complete BS, like, which it is, right? It's just a completely nonsensical thing. They're doing it again. It's complete bullshit. If you post something like that, then I don't, you know, it's really up to people whether or not they want to go after you for it. But should you get fired for something like that? I don't think so. However, if you post something and you do it in a very crass and you with very little tact, then I think that's something that is kind of like fair game. Like if you're kind of, but that comes down to, it comes down to like kind of social contract. Like that's really what that comes down to at that point. If you're being a
uh,
douche, it's a totally different story than if you're doing something with an argument that is valid, right?
I think it's one thing to say something, and it's another thing to do something. I'm not completely on board of bashing people for posting memes or just to be. I mean, that's a really bad example. I'm sure there's like better examples.
No, not
Um,
I agree with you. I don't think people should necessarily lose their jobs. I'm just saying is it's like fair game. Like if a company doesn't want to be associated with a person and their views and their political views, that's totally fair game for the company.
I mean, even when it's outside of the context of their work,
Uh
if they're like posting inside the company and making like differences and like and it's becoming political and like they're not their
Well,
jobs.
I guess
Or,
it depends on
I
the
mean,
forum you're talking about here. If
Mm.
you're talking about somebody and they're posting just to their friends or something like that, even then it gets out to the public and then it becomes a shitstorm. It's the company's not going to take on that risk. They're not going to protect their employee. I'll tell you that much.
You're
I'm
thinking
not saying
about,
I'm not
you
now.
think
I'm
about
not.
the
I want to
Google
be.
case, or are you thinking about?
Well, I'll be. Well, hang on. Before we get to that,
Okay, sure.
what I want to say is, they're not gonna incur the risk of protecting their employee in that situation. But I'm not saying that's correct. I'm
I see
with
what you
you.
mean.
I'm
Yeah,
with
yeah.
you. I in a in whatever we want to call a utopian society, I believe that you should be able to say the things that you say as long as they don't interfere with how you perform at work. I want that society to be like, whatever, his politics suck, but good job. Like
Yeah.
I would love that society. But I'm saying as things are today with the kind of like the mob mentality that people
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
get into here, and it's I mean, I hate to say it, but it's really like, it's tough because the moment you get on either side of an issue, people are going to attack you, and then it seems like they take favorites as to who is allowed to win that argument, who isn't allowed to win that argument, and so you have to be very careful about whether or not you want to be public about a particular issue. So that is kind of where it becomes a slippery slope, and I'm not a big fan of slippery slopes in society. So but it's a very complex issue, and it's not something, again, that I'm still comfortable taking a full 100% position on. I just I want to be right in the middle of it, just because I don't really know right now. I still have to think. God, I started having a better opinion on this, and then I went back to being like, "Oh, fuck that. I don't want to have an opinion on this."
It's just like interesting. I'm gonna bring something, if I can. If you just do 1 more minute on this.
Yeah, sure.
I think you have to be. I think the idea is you have to be. It's tough. I agree completely, but you have to be complete. It's a tough issue. Be completely for freedom of speech or against it, and the arguments become pretty. I mean, as I said before, some of the stuff is pretty hypocritical when you, for example, let's say.
Yeah, but how far do you tolerate intolerance?
I mean, what do you
Like
mean?
how far? Do you tolerate hate speech, for example?
Do I tolerate hate speech?
Yeah.
I just don't see the point of. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I don't know why you would take somebody off a platform for saying hate speech. I don't. If you really believe in free speech, you would not do that. However,
Mm-hmm. Go on.
I'm thinking it's very tough.
I know it's tough. That's kind of why I'm like, yeah, there are times where I think like I get it. The company doesn't want to incur the risk. For example, YouTube doesn't want to incur the risk of losing viewership because they have a platform, which is a private platform, right? And they have a private platform. And, it's taken me a while to like think about this. I had an argument with a friend of mine about this, who I actually want to invite on the show. And we talked about this for a while. And in the context of a capitalistic society, I get it. But as a free society, I abhor it. I want everyone to have a voice. I want everyone to be able to say, you say whatever you want. And then if people think you're an asshole, you're going to hear about it, because they have just as much of a freedom of speech as you do. But you shouldn't get deplatformed by a company for saying what you want to say. But that's a example that deals specifically with platforms that produce media, right?
I mean, it's just like very easy for these platforms to to disable far right people and far left people,
and they can also disable far left people.
Yeah,
right,
or even
exactly.
regular people,
Right.
Like
yeah,
regular
exactly.
or whatever.
Totally.
I'm gonna give a wild example.
Sure.
So you have So you have this like no, let's just move on. I got this is a
Yeah, we got to
let's move on.
keep
Let's
going.
move on.
We got to keep going. All right, so this is I just wanted to push this in here for a moment. This is Joe Biden's new campaign slogan. I
didn't know this is
it's just alliteration all over this thing, and it looks horrible. Build back better Biden. It's the worst thing I've ever seen as a campaign slogan. It's worse than no more malarkey. Like I thought no more malarkey was the worst thing they could have come up with. They outdid themselves here. So
is it no malarkey or no more malarkey? Implying that we've had malarkey before.
God damn.
If we did, I did not notice.
Was it no malarkey or was it no? I feel like it would probably be no more malarkey because it would look better. It would look better on a sign, but I don't know.
More would be italicized and bolded, underlined.
No
malarkey.
More malarkey. No more malarkey.
Like after the more.
I'm like questioning it. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly touch on this. We'll move on. Then just to actually segue into the presidential election, I wanted to post a few things about just the candidates' positions on these issues. And I wanted to draw the attention of just a juxtapose of what people seem to believe on some of these issues. And so this is just one thing that I've seen floating on Twitter. And this person, their tweet was, for the last time, Joe Biden is not the same as Donald Trump. Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, oh my God. Just and so apparently Joe Biden wants a $15 minimum wage, albeit not until 2024, which was in the Democrats' plan from 2006.
Wait. Let me understand. Not until 2024 when he leaves office.
Well, the plan that was posed by the Democrats after Hillary Clinton lost, that they wanted like a bold new vision. That plan was wanted a $15 minimum wage by 2024.
Oh, so he's just adopting the loser's position. Okay, got it. Okay, keep going.
So paid family leave, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you see that he just is in now. If you've been studying Bernie Sanders, or if you know about Bernie Sanders, and I hope that you do, he is considered to be far left in this country, even though Bernie Sanders would be considered a moderate left in most European countries. It's a unique American thing that Bernie Sanders is considered far left at all, because these are just sensible decisions that should already be a part of our society here in the United States. And then when you try to argue with anybody about these things, I saw one person who commented and said, well, that's why Trump is going to win. And I was like, oh, so you don't want any of these things in our society. So, okay. And then of course, Donald Trump is mostly antithetical to what Bernie and Biden's purported positions are on these issues, correct? So anyway, so this is the first one.
This is funny because some of these positions are not what he campaigned on.
Yeah.
Like Trump campaigned on when he joined. But anyway, I mean, the insurance coverage thing, he totally said everybody should have insurance, and it's not happened at all. It's like, anyway.
Well, notice that they don't have anything about the military here.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't have anything about Medicare for all here.
Yeah. Oh, insurance coverage.
Yeah, but that's
it's not. There's a very
totally
it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
Not the same thing. Where does that money go? You know, you can talk about numbers, as we discovered with Mayor Bill de Blasio. You can talk about numbers all you want, if you turn it into a shell game. Anyway, we don't need to.
Yeah, they did a clever thing. 27 million more. It's like, that's not what everybody. You mean everybody, right? No, that's not what they're talking about, obviously.
But anyway, if this was all true, I would be totally for it, right? I would be 100% for it. However, you also have these things floating around. So this is the next slide. And so you have these things floating around, which, let's see, use racism. So on the left side, the Biden and the Trump thing, basically it's all the same, right? Just replace the word voted with supports in certain instances. Obviously, Donald Trump hasn't been in politics beyond prior to 2016 or 2000. Yeah, well, since he was elected in 2016, right? So uses racism, voted for the wars, voted with segregationists, voted with credit card companies, Patriot Act, anti-union policies, crime bill, drug war. Doesn't support Medicare for all. So that's true. Doesn't support medical marijuana, takes millions from special interests, deported thousands, doesn't support net neutrality, lies about his record, refuses to apologize to women he inappropriately touched. And then my favorite part of this is very polite versus is very crass. So to me, that is the major difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Because look at this stuff. Is he actually going to get any of this done?
No, but even if, this is a debate. Even, do you even believe him? I don't believe this guy.
I don't believe him at all.
I don't trust him.
Yeah,
Trust him. Biden. He lied on stage on all his record.
Right.
This is insane.
He even lied about how the NAACP supported him.
Yeah, and they
endorsed him. Sorry, and the NAACP had to put out a statement saying that they never endorsed any political candidate, which was the greatest shade. They didn't even mention him. They just said that they don't take positions with particular candidates, which is a smart move if you're an organization, because that could I imagine that could get divisive within the organization very quickly. But
so back to the other slide, I noticed how two things. I noticed that it says that he doesn't have any climate action. I think he has some kind of tiny bit climate action. He's horrible. So climate rating is horrible, but
yeah, well, he just pushed a $2 trillion climate action plan. So these are a little outdated, of course.
But I do notice that it looks like you got this slide, this part off of Howie Hawkins' website. So are you hinting who are you going to vote for?
Oh man, the thing is like, I don't know if voting at this level is really going to do anything, because of all the concessions you need to make to get into power. Just to get all the support that you need to get into power in the first place, because you have all these companies and you have all these organizations who are either going to support you, but only if you do something, if you promise to do something for them. So
I mean, and then you also have the Democrats and Republicans who basically control getting into these places in each state.
Exactly.
And then like how much are they willing to bend? Just a lot of it is signatures and a lot of bureaucratic stuff. So that's why we don't have more parties, because they don't want more parties.
Exactly. It's crazy. But I don't want to say I'm going to vote for Howie Hawkins, to be completely honest with you. I haven't really studied the guy. The only reason I brought this up is because of the X. The X side on the right side of this is that these two presidents, Biden and Trump, were both completely screwed if either of these make it into the White House. And if Howie Hawkins is the best alternative to that, then I'll be voting for that. But here's what I will say rather, I just wanted to add, so one of the slogans for the 2016 election is "No matter who wins, everybody loses." And the only reason I know that is because I was going to put that title on this page. But then I went to Twitter to see if anyone had done it already, and all the results came back for 2016. So I was like, okay. Isn't that stupid? So, all right, let's move on. Anyway, Howie Hawkins looks like he has a decent platform.
We'll see. You had to do due diligence. You had to see what he's done before.
Right. And then even if he becomes president, like, what are the Senate gonna do? Are they ever gonna vote? Are they ever gonna?
I don't know.
The guy? Like,
I mean, I don't know about that part. If you want to talk about that,
yeah,
President Trump's already after a bunch of stuff. So like, I mean, he's got federal power. The guy, whoever gets voted in, got federal power. That's some power, and that power is part of your. It's a progressive thing. It's one part of running the states. Like it's, I don't know. I'm completely against that argument. The Senate, Congress, get somebody in the House, in the Senate, in the president. Get somebody there, somebody in the administration. You need good people. The more good people, the better. Good people.
Right. You're totally right. And if if Howie Hawkins fills his administration with good people, then you're looking hopefully at a more progressive future for this country. Like we can just back out of a lot of the right wing policies that have been designed, and then the hopefully you can start to. You're probably going to see a lot of propaganda in the early going, though. That's the one thing I'll say is just that
it's going to get crazy.
The level of propaganda in this country is going to go through the roof, my friend. It's never going to end. Look at what they're doing to Donald Trump right now.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump bombs any country, they don't say anything about him on the news. But if he does anything that's like against the establishment, other than that, they go nuts about him. So it's like really crazy. Anyway, so I wanted to say, if these candidates were smart, then this very next slide would be exactly what they focused on when they're talking about why Donald Trump is a bad president, because this is exactly why he's a bad president. This slide of protesters getting tear gassed in Washington, D.C. just to make way for Donald Trump to do a photo op at a church is precisely the reason why anyone who voted for Donald Trump is a moron, or should feel like a moron for voting for them. And then you should get over that feeling, and then you should decide not to vote for them next time. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
I mean, you have a long list of, as he has progressed through the 40
No, absolutely. There's so many things. There's so many things they could have there's like the emoluments clause. There's like so many different things that they could have focused on.
Immigration.
Right. And yet they didn't focus on that for the impeachment for some reason. So it's not because they're out of touch, man. They don't want to implicate themselves when they do these things. And so this is just this image really struck me at my core, by the way, because you have police officers on horses, and they're fucking firing tear gas at peaceful protesters. And then you have people on the right wing saying that these people are violent. Do these people look like they could possibly be violent?
The one thing I will say is that these officers are wearing masks. I'm very surprised. I've seen so many videos where they're actually not wearing any masks. So this might be just part of the uniform.
Look at them. Look at this. Look at this
they're
guy.
All on horses.
Do you see this guy on the right side, by the way?
Yeah.
This guy, what's it called? I don't know, point to him right here. This guy right here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The look on his face is absolutely bananas.
What are they fighting?
Oh, sorry. It's the next slide.
No, go ahead. Let's keep going.
Dude, I don't know. And then
not a good question.
And if Donald Trump were smart, he would focus on this video to try and defeat Joe Biden. And so, can you see my?
I can see it.
Okay.
Go turn up the sound.
Is that good?
Higher.
Is that okay?
Even higher.
This happened last time too. Hang on. Let me see. Video. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter, or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter or not whether or not they had no background that enable them to become socialized into the fabric of society. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask what made them do this. They must be taken off the street. That's number one.
I mean, that's exactly the problem, isn't it? It's people don't want to ever ask the question, well, what was the process that resulted in these people becoming violent in the first place? Nobody ever wants to take on that issue in society. And that is the very frustrating thing about all of this, is because they become myopic. They decide to focus on the actual instance of violence as opposed to focusing on what culminated, what created that instance of violence. There was a process there. When you plant a seed, it doesn't instantly become a tree. It has to grow. So I don't understand why people don't seem to understand this like very basic premise in society, is that they had to go through a process to get there. Well, what is that? And then when you start to deconstruct, sorry, just to finish this point, when you start to deconstruct that, you can actually get to a point where we can start to analyze what's wrong and then maybe offer solutions to fixing those things.
I mean, even at that point, when they're like, the point where they're like, before the lead pipe, or before the point,
right?
But just that point, right before, you gotta ask, like, what does this person want? Why do they want it? Like, why do they want that? Do
Right.
they want money? Do they want a car? Do they want
Right.
to kill somebody for some ridiculous reason? It's just like, yeah. Anyway, you bring up the point. You got to ask the question, because if you don't know, you're never gonna solve it.
Yeah, you're never gonna be able to solve it. But you have these dummies on the right wing, and I get into arguments with these people all the time particularly on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to call them dummies. Let me just put it this way: they're so rigid with because I do argue with some people who have some very interesting points, but they're so rigid on this idea that people need to be in prison if they do anything wrong, and I disagree with that vehemently, because 46% of people in prison today in this country are because of drug offenses. And so, now, were those people doing things that are, quote, illegal? Well, yeah, I can make spitting on the sidewalk illegal and throw someone in jail for that too, if I'm someone in power, right? So it's not about whether or not it's illegal, it's about whether or not it should be illegal. And that's the larger issue here. And Joe Biden he wrote the 1993 or the 1994 crime bill, and he wrote the Patriot Act. So it's like
we can go on a few tangents there, but I won't. I'd like to not to. But just a quick point.
Sure.
I guess I am liking it.
Go for it.
Just like, if you're really mad about this, if you're really mad about like somebody stealing a purse, or you're really mad about somebody stealing a wallet, you should be super, super angry at like J.P. Morgan stealing.
Oh my God!
Tons of
absolutely. That's such a great point.
Like you should be outraged. These people should totally be in jail.
Exactly.
It's like this petty theft versus like this person's house is gone because these people gambled.
Exactly. And then you're gonna protect the gambler instead of the person who is being gambled on,
which ruin those people's lives.
It completely, and it's going to happen again. It's about to happen again. So it was 8 million people got kicked out of their homes because of Barack Obama, his negligence or his failure to act, or whatever you want to call it. But again, it's by design. It's all deliberate. It's all to give those houses back to the banks. And now, like, once again, you're going to have 23 million people on the precipice of foreclosure in this country within the next few months. And they've already, I was talking to Angela recently. She told me they've already opened up the rent courts in society.
Yeah, I read about this. Yeah.
And so they're already taking people to court for not paying rent. So they don't want to help anybody. They don't want to help anybody. It's crazy. It's like, but you try to argue with anybody and you get 8 different opinions from Sunday about this whole thing, and they get people. I have friends who think that Andrew Cuomo should become president of the United States. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? That guy destroyed the city. He cut funding for Medicaid in the middle of this pandemic.
It also has the most deaths.
Yeah, it
of
also
all the
right
states.
by a long shot. New York has the most deaths. So why but these people are legitimately posting selfies and then saying things like Andrew Cuomo for president. And I'm like, you're out of your fucking mind. All right. I don't even think we need to watch the rest of this thing. It actually makes me sick every time I see this thing. I just wanted to bring it up because this video alone should be enough for why Joe Biden shouldn't. This should have just knocked him out of the presidency in the early going, and somehow it didn't. And somehow Bernie Sanders is now working with Joe Biden, and they just finished their task force or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Lots of talk.
So let's move on to another story. And we got 2 more stories here, and then we're going to wrap it up. So nearly half of U.S. childcare centers, this is according to the Miami Herald, nearly half of U.S. childcare centers say they face permanent closure, survey finds. So this is a pretty, I guess, it's just one of those things you don't think about.
I didn't even know about this until you brought it up.
Until you like bring it up, right? Well, that's the thing. It's kind of like, I think, who said it best? It was John Oliver said it really well a few years ago. He said, well, remember the dog from Full House? Well, nobody ever thinks about how that dog is definitely dead now. It's like it's one of those things that when it's in your periphery, you're like, oh, I love that dog. But, now it's 100% dead. So
this is going to hit pretty hard soon.
Yeah, well, if this doesn't outrage people to like beyond the tipping point, because we're almost there. I think we're almost there. Millions of parents depend on childcare centers to educate their kids or to simply look after them so they can work and run errands. But the industry has been quietly bleeding out during the coronavirus pandemic. And if it doesn't come soon, 40% of childcare providers say they'll likely close down for good. Even as school districts across the nation prepare to resume in-person classes this fall, which is another completely batshit crazy story, promising relief to working parents. I don't even like I don't even like the way that's framed. Promising relief to working parents. That is the dumbest framing that you could possibly put it. It is completely the opposite of what needs to happen. You're putting both parents and children in harm's way because you're putting teachers in harm's way. And then you're going to get if those kids get coronavirus and they come home to their parents, those parents are going to get sick and then they're going to infect the workplace. Is it that hard to think 3 steps down the freaking
so stupid
down the road?
Unbelievably stupid. Unbelievably irresponsible.
It's crazy. That's probably my favorite word for this podcast. That's probably what we should have just named this podcast. It's crazy.
I think I was taken. We really needed something to defeat, though.
Yeah.
So might as well be the purpose. It's not a fist bump. That's a punches.
Oh my God. Yeah, I actually,
the corner there.
I'm pretty proud of this. The logo.
The logo?
Yeah. With you. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. But who knows? Well, I mean, if anyone watches this and we start to get some traffic, I am honestly, if anyone wants to pitch a better logo to us or anything, we'd be more than happy to look at some.
We accept like 2 more punches. Like, from
for sure. Just keep the punches. Maybe some punches going up and some like blocking, on the punch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that might be good. Thing. Well, right. So anyway, what was I gonna say?
Yeah, promising relief
to pulling double duty. Why are they pulling double duty? This is the whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. It blows my mind that we live in a country where they can just post this sentence, which has so much like just glaze over all the propaganda here in this ideology. But this person really believes in what they're writing. That's the thing, is this person who wrote this article really believes in it. So anyway, the many daycare and other childcare businesses might not live to see it, a survey by the National Association for the Education of Young Children found. So it's the highlighted paragraph. Less than a fifth of childcare programs believe they will make it another year. Nearly 30% expect they won't make it past September, and 52% said they'll likely be shut down by the end of 2020. So just so everyone knows, we didn't like freeze. We're just taking a moment to think about all the how horrible this all is, because it's starting to bleed into industries that we actually need in society. Like if we had some sort of universal funding program for childcare, you know, our children, maybe that would be beneficial to society as opposed to looking at it as something that bleeds society. You know, maybe if we invested in our future as opposed to looking down on them as scum, which is like just generally the impression that I get from people, right? No new taxes. Sometimes taxes are okay if they fund the right programs, if they make your life less of a burden. But if the taxes are being used to go fucking murder people in other countries in illegal wars, then of course you're going to be pissed off about new taxes. Anybody would be. Anybody that's been struggling through this coronavirus in particular, and even before this coronavirus, if your taxes were being, your tax money is being exploited right now. And they're just creating trillions of dollars for big businesses right now. So that, you know, why those big, and a lot of those big businesses are taking advantage of those trillions. And a lot of them are in the form of loans, right? So a lot of these businesses are taking advantage of these trillions because A, a lot of them are going to be forgiven, right? And B, they're going to use it to gobble up all your assets. And so you're never, everything is going to get way worse from here on out. Nothing is going to get better if things keep trending in this direction, if the power structure in this society keeps trending in this direction. All right, that's my rant for that. I needed to bring us out of that silence.
No one is spared.
Right. No, we're all in for this. But the proletariat, the middle class, what's left of it, they're all in for this. Whatever this is. We're all on a burning plane right now. And there's a handful of people who can determine whether or not we're going to crash. So the article goes on, basically saying that these providers are weary, skeptical, and scared. Rian Evans Alvin, CEO of the NAEYC, not sure what NAEYC stands for. As a country, we have a choice to make. Are we going to continue to underfund and undervalue a system that is the backbone to the rest of the economy, or are we going to make the necessary investments that recognize the essential nature of childcare? A full fourth of early childhood educators said they had applied for or received unemployment benefits, according to the survey, and 73% of providers said they will soon be implementing pay cuts, furloughs, and layoffs, or they already have.
Just so you know, the National Association for the Education of Young Children.
Ah, thank you. That makes sense. That's
very relevant.
That's a great, great acronym. Wow. Financial assistance is needed, and quickly. The NAEYC, the National Association for Education of Young Children, is that correct?
Yep.
While $3.5 billion was set aside for childcare in the CARES Act, it's the most Orwellian name for a bill in history. The CARES Act. The organization says it wasn't enough. We received funds from the Paycheck Protection Program and supports for our families who receive child care assistance funds and support for our families, excuse me. But they have almost run out. And once they're gone, so am I. Jennifer, a child care provider in Mississippi, told NAEYC. So yet another industry that's going to take a massive hit. And
it's just
so,
like, I mean, the obvious practical like thoughts.
well,
just like
how? Sorry,
go ahead. You're gonna say it.
no,
You're
but
gonna say the same thing I'm gonna say.
Go, just you do it.
You're just gonna have these people, like how these people can't have the kids in daycare, so then they have to watch them because you have to watch
Right.
them, and then like how are they gonna work? How
Yeah, how
all
are
the
they gonna
single
work?
parents gonna work? They have to go to their job. Employers can fire people apparently if they don't, if they can't, if they don't come in for work, which is also a whole nother stupid thing.
Right. So it's
just like-
basically a wrap.
Are they thinking here? Is anybody thinking? Is it just like
Well,
thinking?
it's by design.
It's by design, yes.
It's all by design, right? So like, think about it. Now they're forcing in the very last. So they're bringing up this problem, and in the very last page, they talk about this problem right here, which talking about the promising relief to working parents who have been pulling double duty. This between the commas. Just between this commas right here.
This isn't. I mean,
I could talk about this for a day.
This isn't even like this. This industry is pretty bad because the people who take care of children and teachers and these people, they're so underpaid, unbelievably underpaid.
And it's still a super expensive industry for working parents as well. So so the people who are taking care of the kids are getting underpaid, and then the parents have to shell out tens of thousands of dollars every single year. Now you get a tax credit for doing that, but it's not enough to make up for the amount of money that you're spending on dependent care costs.
Yeah, the old tax credit.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why I threw that in there.
No. It's a trick they do where they're like, oh, you get a tax credit on it later.
Right.
We have to pay for it up front now.
Get a house.
Have $30,000.
Right.
Or 10,000 lying around, whatever you want to put.
Right. Get a house. You get a tax credit. It's like, okay, yeah. So you're right. Dude, our country is so unbelievably corrupt. And like I should have put this in the presentation. So I looked at the Global Peace Index today, and I got into an argument with one of those people, and we were talking about how he was like, the United States is like a great country, it's very safe, that's why we need to have these criminals off the streets and blah blah blah. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I looked it up. So out of 158 countries in 2019, guess where the United States ranked?
10, 11?
In the safest countries? The United States ranks 123rd in the world in terms of safety. On the Global Peace Index, how safe is a country? That is literally what they're measuring. The United States measures 123rd, right? They're slightly better than Saudi Arabia. The top three countries, by the way, are Iceland, Canada, and Portugal. Or no, sorry, Iceland, New Zealand, and Portugal. Canada is also up there, way up there. They're in the top like 20, I believe. I forget exactly where they are.
I've been to Iceland, pretty safe.
Iceland, New Zealand, and Portugal, man. Those three countries, just very, very safe places to be. The United States, 123rd. The countries that beat out the United States, I mean, you're talking about, they're in the, so I worked out the percentage, they're in the bottom 23rd to 22nd percentile of countries. So that's the country that we're living in right now. You could move to Canada right now and you'd be in a much safer place. It's just immediately safer country to be in.
I can barely fathom any of this, dude.
Anyway,
I can only take off my glasses so many times.
you just gotta leave them off, and then you only put them on, and then you push them up when you say something smart.
Yeah, that's true. Oh yeah. I haven't got that down yet. We'll work on it as we go through the podcast.
So anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because fuck this guy. Paul Krugman, who wrote this in 2016, he wrote how to make Donald Trump president. And he wrote, step 1, Democrats nominate Bernie Sanders. I don't think Sanders is unelectable. Yes, you do. Because you're doing this double think bullshit, right? You're just fucking doing this horrible garbage. And anyway, I only wanted to bring this up just so I could say F that guy, just because I saw this tweet while I was scrolling through Twitter today, and then I went to the New York Times article and I saw this and I was like, God damn it. All right, finally, I don't even know if I have the energy to do this article.
No, I think we should. I think we should move this to another show.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
huge.
Do you have time tomorrow, maybe, to cover this?
No, we can do it now. We're good.
You want to do it right now?
Yeah, let's just do it now. Fine.
All right. So here we go. So leaked documents show police knew far-right extremists were the real threat at protests, not, quote, Antifa. So I just want to give people the essence of this. We'll go into it, but I just want to give people the essence of the article is that it talks about how the Antifa movement, which stands for anti-fascist, just so everyone is clear about what they stand for. So those are the types of people that they attract. Has been implicated as sort of a boogeyman, according to these leaked documents, and so as far up as the presidency has been using this like Antifa boogeyman ideation to sorry, my cat is doing something, is to what's it called, to blame Antifa, when the reality is that a lot of these far right movements are the ones causing the problems at these protests, right? And they're specifically trying to instigate violence so that the police at those protests take action. So this is how peaceful protesters get caught up in problems at a lot of these protests, is because they're infiltrators. But I'm just going to go on. I'm going to read it. As protests against police violence spread to every state in the United States and dramatic images flooded in from cities across the country, President Donald Trump and his attorney general spun an ominous story of opportunistic leftists exploiting a national trauma to sow chaos and disorder. They were the anti-fascists known as Antifa, and according to the administration, they were domestic terrorists who would be policed accordingly. But while the White House beat the drum for a crackdown on a leaderless movement on the left, law enforcement offices across the country were sharing detailed reports of a far-right extremists seeking to attack the protesters and police during the country's historic demonstrations, a trove of newly leaked documents reveals. Among the steady stream of threats from the far right were repeated encounters between law enforcement and heavily armed adherents of the so-called Boogaloo movement, which welcomes armed confrontation with cops as means to trigger civil war. With much of the U.S. policing apparatus on the hunt for Antifa instigators, those violent aspirations appear to have materialized in a string of targeted attacks in California that left a federal protective services officer and a sheriff's deputy dead, and several other law enforcement officials wounded. So if I'm reading that correctly, this far-right movement have actually attacked police officers so as to instigate violence. Is that correct?
That's what it says. It's the sheriff died. Like, people are dying.
I had to read that a few times just to make sure I was reading it correctly, because it blew my mind that they were willing to kill an actual police officer just to instigate. They would go to that length.
I think what it means is, actually, I'm not too sure because it's a little bit big, but like, they're just like including them, like they just spread, from what the article says later, is that they just covered everybody as terrorists, and they're not actually focusing on specific ones. So they expanded the umbrella to include these people who are not necessarily like causing any problems or who could potentially cause problems if they think they are, and actually
Right.
focusing on, for example, these people who are dead and who are implicated. And maybe I'm not the right person. That's kind of what I understand, especially reading like later in the article what it says.
I don't know.
Like what the ACLU's National Security Project told and stuff. He said throughout the documents you see counterterrorism agencies using extremism so broadly as to mean virtually anything that encompasses dissent.
So I think that's exactly
your point.
So yeah, good point. So I do have a couple more pages, this page and one more page on this.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to actually read the full article. It's this isn't an excuse, but I threw this in the podcast so late. So this is actually what I wanted to move up to the earlier part of the podcast, but I'll continue. Anyway,
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to read the full article, so I'll probably want to come back to this during the next podcast. The cache of law enforcement materials was recently hacked and posted online under the title BlueLeaks, providing an unprecedented look at the communications between state, local, and federal law enforcement in the face of the nationwide protests. In an analysis of nearly 300 documents that reference Antifa, The Intercept found repeated instances of Antifa and left-wing protesting activities cast in cartoonishly grim terms alongside more substantive reports of lethal right-wing violence and threats that have received scant mention from top Trump administration officials.
No, you're right. Yes, you're right. Sorry. So just to be clear, you're right from what you said before. Just to be clear, when I say the Boogaloo movement,
yeah,
this is the Boogaloo people. I think this is like a far right kind of organization.
Okay.
And then you have what? Is it an organization? Let me just. Yeah, it's an organized anti-government movement. So you have this person saying, when they killed the sheriff in California, they were saying, "Oh, these protests are a good time to kill someone in law enforcement."
Right.
These Boogaloo people. And it's just like,
oh my God.
And then Antifa's.
Well, so yeah, we'll get to it in a second.
Yeah,
it's what you're saying is right on the nose. I think it have yeah, here we go. So throughout the documents, you see counterterrorism agencies using extremism so broadly as to mean virtually anything that encompasses dissent. Hina Shamsi, I hope I'm saying that right, director of the ACLU's National Security Project, told The Intercept, there are instances in which people engaging in white supremacist violence get the benefit of the doubt as potential lone offenders, while people of color and those who dissent against government injustice are smeared as threats with guilt by association. But again, you can't argue with these people on the right wing about this, because they immediately, their reptilian brain immediately, like just the people that I've spoken to, their reptilian brain immediately goes against any kind of logic on these issues. You can't reason with them. So it becomes a challenge.
I mean, it's very hard to fight belief. When you believe in something so wholeheartedly, kind of evidence or like data, and like it has to become an experience for you not to believe it. How do you make a believer a non-believer?
I think that's the hard part, is you can't implant experience into people. It's why, like, I've personally gone through a lot of racist experiences, like people just being racist toward me. And I have friends who tell me that this isn't a racist country. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they're just like, dude. And then I have friends who will even concede as far as this, and these white friends of mine who will concede as far as to say, like, I know I'm white, but it's really about what you do with your, and they go into all these excuse building for why they were able to succeed, and that's a measurement of them being hardworking, as opposed to why other people aren't able to succeed, and that's a measurement of them being lazy. And so
there's a lot to unpack.
there's so much to unpack there, but this last paragraph does a great job of explaining it. It's the benefit of the doubt, I guess, is that there's just this doubt there. All right.
It's so many weird. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Please.
No, just so many weird kind of assumptions here. When I lived in Japan, I don't know about the whole country's hardworking, but what I understand, I mean, it is. I think everybody works their ass off there, whatever their job is.
Right.
And there's no kind of like hardworking here kind of means like I worked my way up, or I, as opposed to like I'm a janitor, I work hard, you know.
Right.
Why is that not good enough?
Why? Yeah, exactly.
Why do you have to look down at that? Or like
we frown on laborious work here, unless you're a sports athlete, then you're the pinnacle of success. But it's weird, like, or if you're an actor, or you're like a grade A actor, or you're a major league, what's it called, a national sport, and you're the pinnacle of success here. But if you're something else, you're kind of looked down upon. You're not looked at with the same favorability, and that is a result of the economic status that and if your economic status is favorable, then people look up to you, and if your economic status is poor, then people look down to you,
which is really weird, to be honest.
Yeah, it's very well. It's just the culture that we live in. Like, you look at McDonald's workers in places like Finland, and they're treated with respect. Like, that is that's just how you treat people in society. But here, you kind of, you kind of laugh at people, try to like laugh at those people, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Finland has problems too.
Of course.
But that's no excuse to laugh at anybody who works at McDonald's or anybody who works at anywhere.
When I try to draw an example from a place, I want to be clear that I'm not.
Yeah, you're not.
I'm not trying to be like, I'm not like all in for Finland. I'm like, no. Obviously there are parts of America that are good. I'm not saying all of America is bad, but there is so much that's bad right now that I think we're about to fall off a cliff, and so it's we're kind of at that place in society, and so just to move this along, there was a. I wish I had the person saying this quote. That's my bad. So one of the quotes in the article, you have these heavily armed groups right there who have a much more direct and lengthy history of violence than anything Antifa or anarchist involved type organizations does, right? Is anarchist involved the name of an organization? Because the way that they write that is very strange to me.
This guy who quoted this his name's Michael German.
Okay.
He's a former FBI agent specializing in domestic terrorism.
Okay. There's
not a sign.
This is too much.
A lot of silence and sign.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. The use of firearms greatly influences the scale and intensity of these events. A source in the group titled National Accelerationist Revival, I think I'm saying that right, wrote on May 27th, advising followers to break police lines, quote, with cocktails, chainsaws, and firearms. So this is another one of those right-wing groups. At the time, Department of Homeland Security, DHS, reported the group included more than 3,400 subscribers. Looting and shoplifting are both cool, quote, looting and shoplifting are both cool, and whites should be doing it way more, the source went on. When the laws no longer benefit you, break them for personal gain. If you don't feel like buying something, steal it. If you don't feel like driving slow, drive fast. If you don't like someone, hurt them. And then it goes on, we ought to, quote, we ought to revel in the destruction of the police state, they wrote. It is just as necessary to break down the police state and the system of control as it is to spread racial hatred. All right, well, good night. It's been real.
Crazy. Good night from all of us are crazy here.
I can't even believe I'm reading this. This is I'm gonna have to read the rest of this article tonight. I mean, this is like just at the beginning of the article. It's like, I told you this before, it's like every single paragraph is a slam dunk. And the way that this writer writes, he does not put any fat in this article. Everything is just like straight to the point, and it's probably going to take me about 20 minutes to read the whole thing. But this is really terrifying stuff, man. I'm glad it's coming out. I'm glad that there's evidence now, because it was purely allegations before. Like, I heard a lot of allegations about infiltrators and people that get into these movements, but now we actually have proof.
We got to talk more about BlueLeaks. Big story.
We're definitely going to talk more about this, but we are going to end the show. It's 1 a.m. here in New York. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Burn the midnight oil.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Burn all the bulbs out. Sorry. Whatever the modern version.
No worries. Burning the midnight oil here, it defeats the purpose. So we're gonna go get some sleep. Sorry, I was trying to do my sign off. You were trying to talk about burning the midnight oil.
We're gonna finish the analogy in the right way. Anyway,
fair point. Thank you everyone for tuning in. My name is Khalid. This is Issam. We'll be coming back to you next week. Just don't forget to like and subscribe, and just be safe out there, and we'll see you guys again soon. Okay. All right, bud. Have a good day.
Miss you until next time.
Yeah, right. Later, dude.